Welcome back to the Valley to Peak Nutrition Podcast. This week I'm joined by Nicholas Gilbert. You may or may not have heard his name before, but he has a great story to share. As you'll hear throughout our interview with one another, Nicholas was a high-level collegiate athlete for the University of Oregon running team and now guides on the beautiful island of Hawaii. In spite of those things, he still felt like he had a couple of unchecked and unfinished pieces of business that he wanted to set out to accomplish in 2024. The conversation that he and I have together recap those challenges and the rewards that come with it. I don't want to give away the entire story, so I'm just going to sit back and let you listen. Here's Nicholas Gilbert and I talking about what a year of lessons and redemption it's been. I'll do a little introduction, prior to actually starting the podcast, but a little bit of background on who you are and what you do, what you're passionate about, and let's take it away. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you like?
Yeah. So my name is Nicholas Gilbert, born and raised in Maui, Hawaii, and went to college in University of Oregon in Eugene and decided to come back to Maui. I just couldn't leave the island and decided to move back to Maui and been here ever since. I started hunting when I was about 5 years old. Growing up in Hawaii, we've been very lucky to be able to hunt a lot of different resources from axis deer, pigs, feral sheep, and then be able to fish all our life. And living off the land has been something ingrained into me and the culture here in Hawaii. And, I decided, once I started having a job that could allow me to get out to the mainland and enjoy different hunts like mule deer hunting and being able to experience Alaska. I've been able the last 10 years to go out and experience some different hunting in different parts of the mainland. And on those journeys, I've sure learned a lot in terms of how you need to be in physical shape and how to be, how to, you're spending a lot of money on these hunts. And I wanted to make sure I knew how to take full advantage of those opportunities, and it was a learning experience. And I think, Kyle, you and I met over a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Has it been, I think, a year and a half, 2 years?
I was just looking at that. I think it was about a year and a half ago.
Yeah. And I think when I reached out to you for as a mentor, as to find help, I think I was at a point in my life where I was like, I just got over 40 years old, and I wanted to really create a plan to better myself physically, mentally, and put together a game plan to make myself a better hunter, because that's a big part of my life. I'm really passionate about hunting. And in 2010, I went on a Dall sheep hunt in Alaska with a rifle and was fortunate enough to draw a highly prized tag in the Chugach Mountains. And ever since then, I got the sheep bug, and I wanted to go back and do it with a bow. And I put in for a archery tag in the Chugach in 2017 and drew it, and went up there, and that hunt changed my life. It was didn't get the opportunity at a sheep, but it showed to me that I needed to better myself. I need to get a better shape. And ever since then, I wanted to make sure I could get to a point in my life that I would be able to do some of these really tough hunts. And that's where I reached out to you and made a game plan on making myself lose some weight and have a plan on nutrition. And you sure have changed my life in terms of what happened this year, which I know we can jump into.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing that I think is a good question to ask is, you didn't just go to University of Oregon, you ran for University of Oregon, right? And anyone who knows anything about college athletics knows that that's like the mecca of running. If you and it may be hard to pinpoint one thing, because I don't know that you and I have ever really talked about this, or I've never really asked you this. There's a period of time in there from whenever you ran until you drew this tag in 2017, you really feel like that changed your life. What do you feel like the backwards digression was from being that collegiate level athlete at such a prize school for running, and then life happening between whatever year it was that you left there and in 2017 when you had this sheep hunt and sort of had this aha moment. If you could go back and look at the cycle of things that happened, maybe it's one, maybe it's a series of things that moved you from, a place in your physical training level that you were proud of to a place that you weren't as proud of, what do you feel like that would be?
Yeah, great question. In your 20s, you can get away with a lot more in terms of eating, your metabolism. And then once you hit your 30s and have kids, I think you get complacent. And I think I wasn't as organized. I didn't have a plan. And I think that's one thing I really learned from you is in sports, as a team, as having a coach, you're mentored, they keep you organized, they keep you on track. And I feel like after college and athletics, I started to take advantage of being in good shape and being able to eat what I wanted to eat. But after a while, when you're 30s and having kids, things catch up to you in your life and you just can't get away with those kind of things. And I think I got lazy, complacent, and it just kind of a snowball effect where you start to, it just catches up to you so fast that you realize that, wow, I'm 30 pounds heavier and I'm not where I used to be and I need to make changes. So it just, it happens so quickly.
Was there anything on the sheep hunt in 2017 that stands out to you as you think about it as like, man, I cannot repeat that. I've got to do something about. Was there any sort of an outcome or was there anything that stands out that you feel like was this big triggered aha moment for you that you felt like I've got to fix this, whatever that might have been?
Yeah. So when I did this archery sheep hunt in the Chugach and 4 years ago, it was physically, I thought I was ready, but in reality, I wasn't. The Chugach is steep, nasty, very unforgiving, and you might be able to do it one day, but after the third day, you really find out if you're in good shape and if you can really last. I think it was two things. First, I was overweight, so you had to carry that weight up a steep hill every single day, which is hard on your body. And number two, I think I didn't have a plan in terms of nutrition. I didn't know what kind of fuel I needed to give me the best endurance and performance on a daily basis. And I think that's where you and I really worked together, and you got me on track to really understand my body, understand how nutrition works, and really educate myself. So those were the two factors I think that really where I saw success this year.
And so that was in 2017. You initially reached out in 2022. There's a 5-year span in there. And I only know this because of the conversations you and I have had. Like you didn't just sit on that, realization for 5 years. You made a lot of attempts and in some cases you made progress, but the progress was really tough to manage long term. What do you feel like it was that made you finally reach out? Or maybe a better question would be, in all the attempts and efforts that you had given, was there any one thing you kept circling back to that made you feel like, I don't know why this is not sticking?
Yeah, I think there's so much information out there, and you kind of get lost on what to believe anymore. And with podcasts and Google and internet searches, you would think, oh, that information is out there. But I think I wanted to really understand nutrition and really have a game plan put together where I could understand, okay, I'm eating this. This is why it's not good for you, or why I need to eat clean fuel and things like that. So just to have a plan. I think sometimes in life you really got to get organized and have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, then you're really not kind of achieving where you want to go. So the plan was what really worked with you and I, and getting organized, and the educational part of it, simplifying it.
Yeah, good. Well, I remember you reaching out and, we did the initial onboarding stuff. We had you fill out the audit form. We looked through that together. We built your plan and you started going through it and it wasn't seamless like at first. It was, it was, you were doing the steps and I remember out of frustration, you'd send me a message and you essentially say, look, I am doing what you're saying. It's not working. What's wrong? Maybe I need to be even more restrictive. In your like as you look back and assess because you had pretty awesome progress as you look back and think through that, what do you feel like was so challenging about the initial start of that? Because we did develop a plan, we created some different structure in there, but still it's not to say that it was easy, and it certainly wasn't easy at the beginning.
Oh,
When you look back at that, knowing what you know now, what do you feel like made the initial steps so challenging, so difficult, or what'd you pick up from that?
yeah. I think initially it was tough because you get into these routines in your life where you have a certain breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacking and things like that. Um, you really don't understand how many calories you're really consuming, which was shocking to me. I was consuming a lot more calories than I thought I really was. And then getting organized and, using measuring cups and really understanding how many calories are in a cup of rice and things like that. And, seasonings and spices and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of eye opening to me. But yeah, the hardest part I think for me was, really, the snacking. I think the snacking was hard for me. I love snacks. I love gummy bears and things like that, but you're really given a set amount of calories and you have to stay within that. And that was tough for me for a while, really staying within that calorie intake, which was pretty low for me for a while, but I think um, it was the right way to go for us. So,
Yeah, and to your like I think it's fair to point out to your credit, you were doing everything, right? I mean, there's a series of steps that we kind of build in for everyone at the beginning, and then we sort of get nuanced and try to make it really tailored to them. But you were definitely doing everything that we had talked about in the beginning. And I think one of the things that made it so challenging, and it's good to I think it's good to talk about because the thing that made it challenging for you is the thing that makes it challenging for everyone
mhm.
is that with your work that you do, you meet with a lot of clients, you find yourself where your routine's not always perfect. And so even though you were going through the rhythm of trying to be accountable to the nutrition, there's always a discrepancy, right? There's always a discrepancy between what we're logging and what's in the actual dish if we're not the ones prepping for it. Now we've got different workarounds that we can use for that to try to offset the error that may be there. But a lot of times, a lot of people feel like, well, I'm doing everything right from a habit standpoint. I don't understand why this isn't working. And unfortunately, right now, a lot of what you'll hear on podcasts is, well, that means your metabolism is broken. You've got to go do some nutrition dogma to fix it. And it's not, it's just your intake is too high and we've got to figure out where and why. So I think it's worth pointing out, like, it wasn't that you were aloof and not doing the work. You always have. It was just that we had to figure out, okay, well, if he's doing the work and there's not the type of progress reflected based off of the work that he's doing that we feel like we should be seeing, why? And I think one of the most commendable things when I look back at the time you were in it is how tenacious you were. I mean, you never quit. You never got frustrated to the point of where you waved the white flag. You just showed up every week and kept trying and kept trying and kept trying. And then we finally hit a rhythm and started to figure out where it was. And so, yeah, it looked like your intake was really low. Part of that was just the error from eating out in the app, not you. You weren't the error, it was the app. And so we had to, offset and accommodate that. But I think it's worth saying that because a lot of people will listen to this and think, well, yeah, well, he was aloof on some of the practice. You weren't. You weren't at all. You were following it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the other tough challenge I had too was with two boys having kids and doing the Costco runs, and you have animal cookies and snacks everywhere in the house. That was challenging too, just to stay away from that. It's always tempting. just because I'm going on this journey doesn't mean the whole family has to, but they were very supportive. And when they were eating something I couldn't eat, then they would support my, sweet potatoes and lean venison steak, if they were doing nachos or something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think a good point to bring up too is that, you work, you also guide hunts in the and during the season. You followed this during guiding season while putting on some pretty high miles. What what do you feel like some good tips were that you put in place or that we talked through or whatever that you walked out during guiding season that might help other people who are interested in doing this, during one of those type of seasons?
Yeah, that was a real challenging part because when you're up, waking up at, 3 or 4 in the morning and you're guiding all day, getting back late at night, you really have to prep and get organized with your snacks and your electrolytes and everything like that. Because initially, when I first was going out, you're you're burning so many calories. You're so hungry. So I was bringing a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of gummy bears, a lot of things that would work on a when you're reach your goal, but it wasn't working when you're trying to be in a calorie deficit because you get so hungry and you just start eating tons of snacks. So working with you, it was great because you really showed to me and taught me that there's certain snacks I should be looking at, fruits and protein, the right, protein meats, and cheeses and things like that. So really prepping and getting organized really helped me. Initially, I was just throwing stuff in a bag and consuming it without really having a plan. And that really, really helped me because, when you're burning that many calories, you're pretty much want to eat all day. But if you're eating a lot of protein sticks, the right protein, it really fills you up quickly. So I really noticed a difference with protein versus just eating gummy bears all day. So that was really something I really learned that's helped me to this day.
And what's the name of the traditional Hawaiian? It's not a dish. It's is it matsubi?
Yeah, spam musubi.
Oh man, yeah. So you
Those
you
are
had
so good.
I kept
That's not the
seeing
right
these.
protein.
I kept seeing these in your logs, and finally I was like, "What is this?" And so I Googled it, and then whenever we went down there on a big group trip during the spring, it was everywhere. And so like it is the perfect snack to throw in your backpack because it's essentially sushi, right? It's protein wrapped in rice, so you got a great mix of carbs and protein. But I kept seeing this, and I was like, man, like I must not be in the loop here, and this must be something really great because he's eating it all the time. But it's a great backpacking snack.
Yeah, Hawaii is the number one consumer of spam in the world. We could
Really, I didn't know that.
in the world. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I find that so interesting that they would consume spam when they've got a plethora of other way better options.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the plantation days when we had many different cultures here, and spam was uh, something that different cultures could afford. That's a lot cheaper. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been around since I was born, and it's very popular here. Every convenience store or gas station you go to has spam musubi or chicken musubi. So they're delicious.
That's awesome. Very cool. Yeah. Anyway, I remember that. I remember during the whole guiding season, it was like that gummy bears fruit, and it was just a regular occurrence in your logs.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love the most is, you had a awesome run through this, right? Through the goal phase, then the maintenance phase. You had a really successful maintenance phase. And I don't want to spoil it, but as the hunting season went on for you, you sent me a message and you basically just said, like, what a year. And you were, I knew behind that was all that you had accomplished on your health, the different hunts you'd gone on, etc. But can you kind of elaborate just on that piece of it alone in terms of you shifted so much in a year and what the difference meant for you on some of these bigger trips and just in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a huge um accomplishment for me personally was when I started with you, at two goals. Number one was to lose weight. Number two was to reduce my, LDL, HDL numbers for my cholesterol. And the journey was, like you said, it was difficult at first because you want to see results immediately. But the way I approached this journey with you on reducing my weight and my metric numbers from a blood test. It was slow, but it was done perfectly because now I'm able to maintain everything. Um, but first was this journey of with you, and then during this journey, I also drew that Chugach sheep tag again, archery sheep tag, which was something I've always wanted to draw again, and it just gave me that extra motivation to finish what we started, knowing that that would really help me to get to be in that optimal shape for the sheep hunt. And during this, this process with you, it was the longer it goes, the more you see the results and you start feeling better, you start sleeping better. I think your confidence goes up. Your family sees it. I become a better father. I become a better, person just overall. I think everything when you accomplish your goals makes you feel better. And when I had told you I drew the sheep tag, you were like, this is great. And then to continue this process into the sheep hunt, not just with the weight loss and everything else, but you actually guided me on the nutritional side of, okay, well, what are we going to bring on this hunt and get me prepared, and being lighter and being able to go, farther and do other things that I wasn't able to do when I was 30 pounds heavier. Um, it was the best feeling. And I don't know if we want to get into the sheep hunt, but achieving what we did together and then be able to go into this hunt. It's gonna be hard to beat this year. Just physically, mentally, it was very achieving for me. And
I think it's
yeah,
so it just seems so fitting for the 2017 sheep hunt to be the catalyst, and then for this to be the capstone. I mean, you had no idea you were going to draw this until well into your own personal journey. And it's interesting to hear you say, when you set goals and you see those goals accomplished, you become better in every area of your life. I would agree with that. And I think that a lot of times something like this, a person is interested in seeing, whether it's aesthetics or whether it's a scale number, or whether that scale number and or aesthetics translates into something in their life, like, a sheep hunt or whatever. It almost always serves as the catalyst just for structure and discipline. And when you start to implement it in one area, you almost can't help but it bleeds into other areas too, where you're talking about being a better husband or father or business owner or friend or, whatever that looks like. And so when you had sent me that and you said, what a year, to me, it still makes me smile because it's just so fitting for the 2017 sheep hunt to have been the catalyst. And this year, it wasn't just about the ram, which we'll get into the story in a little bit, but it was just like this culmination of this cool journey that I was grateful to be a part of. And I was just happy for you. Still am.
yeah, I'm still on cloud nine. I just feel better. And to be able to maintain the weight I want to be at is great. And just gonna keep doing it, keep what you've taught me, and keep that process going. And I really notice the differences throughout the year, but also on my sheep hunt, which is a big part of what I like to do, which is hunting. So I don't think I could go back to another where I was. I want to stay where I'm at. So that's the goal.
So let's talk about the sheep hunt. You go into this, you've got, redemption on the mind from 2017.
Yeah.
What was the initial thought when you knew you drew the tag?
The initial, yeah, it was something I've been waiting for. To draw this archery tag in the Chugach is not easy. I think 10%. It's low odds, very low odds to draw it. It's an archery only tag in Alaska in the Chugach Mountains. It's an incredible place, but the first time I went, I failed. And when I say failed, I don't mean failed. The experience was amazing, but I never did get an opportunity, which is hunting, and I understand that. But when I drew it, I was excited for the opportunity just because I was feeling good mentally, but also physically. I was 30 pounds lighter. I was feeling stronger than ever. And I was really excited for the opportunity to give it another shot in being in the best shape possible. It does make a difference. And once we jump into the story, I can illustrate that in many different ways. So
Yeah. So what, I mean, that's a great place to start it. What did you notice that was the biggest difference between your 2017 hunt and this year?
I think the biggest thing physically, well, mentally, number one, you go in with a lot more confidence, knowing that you're lighter, you're stronger, you're feeling better. But in 2017, when I did the hunt, I noticed I would cramp all the time, a lot of cramping, and I was drinking a lot of electrolytes, but I think it was more being heavier, out of shape, not being an optimal, and I think the nutrition plan helped too, being organized on what nutrition to bring really helped. But carrying 30 pounds is a lot of weight. That's a lot of weight to carry up vertical climbs because literally in the Chugach, you're hiking on, valley floors and you're climbing straight up every day. There's really no easy way to get up where the sheep are. It's very steep and nasty. And every day I would come down, I would get in a tent and just cramp, and I wouldn't recover as fast as I would like. After the second, third day, I was just in pain. I mean, recovery took 2 weeks after the hunt for me to kind of fully recover. Where this year, on the hunt, we did 26 miles on the first day and I wasn't even sore. I mean, I felt incredible. And that's due to having a plan with the nutrition, the right electrolytes. But, when you take 30 pounds off your back,
Yeah.
it's huge. That's really what I noticed is the weight. I don't care. Being lighter is just easier. It's easier on your body. It has to be on the joints and everything. I felt like I could keep up with the guide. I felt like if he asked to go over the next mountain, I could. I think it was the mental and physical ability to just do more was huge.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. So what was the outcome?
Yeah. So we hiked in on the first day. We went 26 miles and this was on the valley floor. And then we had to climb 3,000 feet to get up into this bench where the sheep were kind of hanging out. And, with the bow, it's challenging because these sheep have such amazing eyesight. And with these big canyon valleys, the wind swirls and it's just nothing's easy about sheep hunting. Even with the rifle, it's tough. So we went up into this bench where there was no one. There's about 50 tags. I think there's 47 resident tags and 3 non-resident tags. So it's very low tag numbers. But the Chugach is not huge. It's not a big area. So you'd think you would run into someone. But where we went was very remote. Most of the residents don't even go back in there because it's just a long ways. It's 26 miles just on foot just to get to the back of a valley. It's a long ways. And then you got to climb 4,000 feet, which is not easy. I had a great guide, this guy, Mike Gray, amazing guide. I think late 20s, great shape. So trying to keep up with a 20-year-old, which I did well. So the season opened October 1st. It's a late season, so you're dealing with a lot of cold weather, rain. The Chugach is a young range on the coastal range, so it's not the best weather. We got lucky. We got some good weather and got into the location we wanted to be. So on the first day, we kind of glassed this. They're like these glacier canyons way up in the back. And we ended up spotting some rams. There was about, I think, 8 rams altogether. And we kind of stayed back because the wind was going straight up the valley. And we were trying to stay on the outside of the valley. And we saw 3 shooters, 3 really good rams. And we were going to try on so this was October 2nd, to go back and see if we can make a play. So on the first, we went back to camp, slept that night. And then on the second, we got up on this hill and glassed and relocated the sheep. The thing with archery is you really only get one shot. So you really have to make the right play. We saw the sheep and my guide said, let's just watch them for a while. So we watched them. They bedded, of course, on a high point where they can see in all directions. So my guide's like, you know what? I think the only way we could ever make a play is if we got on the other side of the valley and got up higher above them. And they were pretty low. They were down more in the tundra grass instead of up in the rocks. So we decided to come around, drop down on his face, and then come up on the other side and get up in the rocks above him. And one thing with sheep that I've learned over the years is if you get above them, they don't seem to look above. They don't look. They don't seem to think predators will be coming above them. So we got above them, but the wind wasn't right and it's wide open. So we sat there so the trek to get to the other side was about an hour, steep, nasty, just, clawing through that shale stuff. And then we got above them, got in a good position, and we sat there for about 7 hours, just waiting for them to make a move, and hopefully we could get a play. We didn't even think we would have a play on them. And it got dark. At that time of year, it gets dark around 7:30, so pretty early because this is October 2nd now. And, I'm freezing. I'm a Hawaii boy, and I'm not good in cold weather. So my guide's laughing at me because we're sitting there and it's windy. So I've got, all the layers on, and he's laughing at me. And I don't do good in cold weather. But we sat there for 8 hours, and when you can't move, it just, it's tough. For me, it's tough. So around 6:30, the sheep got up and they started to move. And my guy's like, if they went over that bench and just kind of got out of sight, I think we could maybe make a play. And so it's getting dark, and I'm like, oh man. And sure enough, the sheep, they went over the bench, kind of fed down toward the river. And he's like, what do you think? And I said, I think I feel good. Let's do it. And I said, but let me take off all my layers of clothing first so I could shoot my bow if I get lucky with an opportunity. And he's laughing. So I took all my layers of clothing off and we jammed down. I mean, we were maybe 800 yards away from the sheep. It's straight above them, just went straight down. The wind's blowing up the valley. And we had enough time before the thermals were going to switch. So we jammed straight at them. And he's like, okay, they're going to be right over this hill. If they're going to be there, and you might be able to get a shot off. And we dropped their packs, and then we started to crawl over this little hill and came over the hill. And there they were 34 yards below us. And there was the three big ones were right there. And Kyle, I literally lifted my head to get a range, and one of the sheep pinned me. Like he spun his head and looked straight at me. And I'm behind the tundra grass. Could barely even see him just to try to get a range, to get the range I wanted to maybe get a shot off. And I could not believe how good their eyesight was. I mean, just pinned me. So I got the range. It was 34, but steep, like straight down, probably a 45-degree cut. And my guide was behind me, and I wasn't even looking at him. I said, just trying to grab my bow, slowly come get an arrow. And I got it all on video, and I'll send you the video. It's really cool. And pulled back, and it was just, everything was meant to be. I think with all the trials and things I went through with 2017, it was just meant to be. And I pulled back, and as soon as my shot broke, the sheep literally was about to take off, and I hit him quartering away, and the whole arrow just went through. And at first my guy's like, did you hit him? And I was like, I think so. I heard the schwack, and they ran down the hill, but one of them stopped. And then, with their white hide, you can really see blood coming. So, luckily I made a really good shot, but I was surprised how far he went. He went probably about 100 yards and, went around the bend, and two of the sheep came running up the hill, and I'm like, oh no, just you have all those thoughts going through your mind of like, I just don't know what happened. And came around the corner, there he was bedded, and I had to put one more arrow, but other than that, it was a really ethical shot. And at that point, I don't usually have a lot of respect for the animals and everything, and it's something I don't take lightly. But this hunt was very emotional. I literally broke down, and just because of everything I've been through with the journey of, failing one time before, the losing the weight, getting healthier, it just was something I'll never forget. And my guide even was emotional. He's like, wow, he really felt the emotion come out. And it was just magical. And you've been on it. You had your sheep hunt this year, and it's just something a lot of people don't get to experience. And it was such an amazing experience. And then for it to come together so quickly, and me to feel so good about it with my health and everything, it was amazing. And that's just a short story of how I went down. And it wasn't really, anyone probably could have made the shot. It was 34 yards, but all the hard work I put in, I really believe it paid off. And just right place, right time, and just something I'll never forget. It was just, what a year. Yeah, what a year.
Yeah, what a story, and what a ram too. I mean, it was a beautiful, old, mature ram, and just an awesome accomplishment. When you sent me the picture, I think I might have been out on a hunt myself, and I didn't get your picture until later. And I was couldn't help but smile ear to ear, just stoked for you. So congrats again.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, it was great. And thank you for all you've done for me. And it's been an amazing journey.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I guess last question would be for anybody who was like the pre-2022 Nicholas, what advice would you have for anyone who's kind of in that spot where they feel stuck or they're apprehensive to start, or they don't know where to start, or whatever? What one thing would you share with them about just getting started?
Yeah. I think first of all, you have to put your ego aside. I think all of us sometimes think we can do a lot of things on our own. And in reality, sometimes you have to seek help. It's that simple. No matter where you come from, no matter how smart you are, what you've accomplished in your life. I've accomplished a lot, but I needed to seek help and find a way to get to the goals I want to accomplish with my body weight and all that. And I think sometimes you just gotta there's a lot of junk out there. There's a lot of things, theories and podcasts and gimmicks and all that. But at the end of the day, nutrition isn't complicated, but it's still, I think we don't know it as much as I think we can simplify it and make it a lot simpler. And working with you has really taught me that. And without a plan and without someone who can really coach you and hold you, accountable for what you're doing, then it can be challenging sometimes. So my advice to people would be just make an effort to get organized, have a plan. And without a plan, you really can't reach your goals if you're not organized. So, and reach out for help. I don't think all of us can use help sometimes.
Yeah, that's great. It's awesome. If people are interested in reaching out to you or going on an axis deer hunt or what have you, what's a good place for people to find you?
Yeah, you can either reach out to me on Instagram, which is my handle is Nicholas Mawinokaoi, or you can visit our website, which is hawaiisafaris.com.
All right, and I'll link both of those in the notes so people can just click them. They don't have to go searching for them, and connect with you if they want any of that.
Great, thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I mean, obviously, I said it on the podcast, but I was just so happy. I still am so happy for you through all of it. I mean, I'm happy for the sheep piece of it, the watching you go through the journey every week. Like, I would get on and I would think he's gonna want to quit this week. Nope, he just kept going, dude. It was great.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, but if you stick with it, baby steps, you see results. At first, it's challenging, but you do see results, and you just stick with it.
Thanks so much for listening, and a huge thank you to Nicholas for taking the time out of his day to sit down with me and recap some of the coolest highlights of his year in 2024. If you have any interest in reaching out to him, whether personally or through business, or checking out what opportunities are available in Hawaii, you can follow up with him and his contact information, which is in the show notes. If there are other topics that you want us to explore in this year, questions you've got, anything, we would love to do that. We love to talk about what you are interested in hearing. So you can send those suggestions, those questions, anything that you've got over to us at info@v2pnutrition.com. And we will be back again in a couple of weeks with some new episodes. Have a great week, everyone.